What is going on, everyone? Phil here, and welcome to KO Gaming for my review of Prey, the new sci-fi survival horror epic from Arcane Studios, as well as published by Bethesda. This game is pretty interesting, a unique combination of open-world exploration, looting, crafting, an upgrade tree that gives you interesting capabilities, combined with a survival horror and a suspense-style aspect that's rarely seen in this kind of game. Think a combination of, say, the Dishonored series or Deus Ex with some of the more supernatural elements of games like BioShock, and now you've got kind of the rough idea of what to expect with Prey. At the outset of the game, you get to choose the gender of the protagonist. I chose male, and so for the game, I played Morgan Yu, a cutting-edge scientist who, alongside his brother Alex, work for a company that's owned by their father. This company is at the very forefront of different kinds of scientific research, including robotics and laser tech, but also neural enhancements. They found a way by which injecting a certain substance into your eyeball, and it subsequently into your brain, can implant different kinds of abilities and knowledge that you previously didn't have. Imagine if overnight you could become a master musician even though you've never touched an instrument before in your life. Well, these new neuro mods make that all possible. And so you're off on a journey where you're going to go to a space station with your brother, but there's going to be some initial testing beforehand. As the testing starts to happen, all hell breaks loose, a weird creature shows up, and then all of a sudden everything goes black and you wake up in your bed again. Wow, now that is a weird opening premise for a game, and for the entirety of this game, you're going to be wondering, what happened? Is that true? Did it really happen? Was I in some kind of a simulation? Was it some kind of a trick? What's really going on? And as Prey progresses, you actually find out that you're in this space station, and that you're already up there, and it's already been overrun with all kinds of creepy creatures, and now it's up to you to find out what happened to the humans, what's really going on, why on earth you woke up in this kind of a dream where it looked like you were in an apartment. And that is the underlying mystery of Prey. It's really cool because, like other games, like I said, BioShock and the like, there is this overwhelming kind of supernatural / sci-fi suspense element as you try to piece together pieces of the puzzle and find out what went wrong on this orbiting space station. And when you really realize what's actually happening, it's actually a pretty awesome story. And so, as you wander around the Talos 1 space station, you're going to notice that much like the Dishonored and the Deus Ex franchises, Prey is all about how you choose to play it. In the early stages, it is going to be more about doing traditional first-person shooter combat, defending yourself with melee attacks with a wrench as you come across these alien mimics that look like common objects in your environment and all of a sudden will transform in front of you to do giant jump scares and then hit you for damage. It's pretty shocking at first, and even I was scared a few times and surprised when these things out of nowhere would fall out of the sky or transform right in front of me. And so you're going to be swinging for the fences with the wrench trying to defend yourself, but of course eventually you're going to get some much better things, including a handgun and a shotgun. So yes, your standard first-person shooter fare kind of takes effect here, but there's also some unique kind of hand grenades such as EMP grenades and recycler grenades, which actually will turn organic matter into components which you can use to craft items later. There's a few really unique things in Prey that are kind of awesome that they're in the game. There's a glue gun, which allows you not only to stick enemies to slow them down temporarily so you can get by them or maybe put them in place so that you can run up and get a critical hit with the wrench or a gun, but also they allow you to create these platforms on walls that now allow you to climb into all kinds of spaces that maybe previously you couldn't find. So the glue gun is both for combat, for defense, and also for platforming. Really cool element and something completely unique that I definitely enjoy. Further on in the game, you'll find neuromods, which you'll be injecting into your body to give you all kinds of elements, and this is really where the game opens up because you can choose to play it however you want. If you really want to focus just on physical abilities like having a lot of strength so you can move heavy objects that may be blocking your way or throw giant crates at the enemies, you can do that. If you want to focus on hacking so you can get into different consoles and open certain doors that are locked, you can do that. Or you could just decide to put these elements into things like your health or your stamina, so now you're more of a tank-like ability than anything else. You also have the ability later in the game to get psi powers. Now these are basically as you infuse yourself more and more with this mysterious substance, which you're not sure what it is, you become almost psychic. And as you actually scan enemies in the game, meaning once you get this visor and you start to scan them as they come at you, you're going to start gaining some of their abilities. So you'll be able to do things like push them back with a telekinetic wave or maybe mind control certain enemies so that they'll help you temporarily. And again, it's all dependent exactly exactly on how you want to play the game. You could use certain elements one over another. In my playthrough, I ended up starting out more melee based, but then as I got these psi powers, I realized, wow, that kinetic push is really powerful, knocking the enemies down, and you can usually kill them in 1 to 2 shots. And that's pretty much what I wrote out for the entirety of the game, but I certainly could have picked another ability and it might have made a completely different experience. In fact, I'd say probably 2 different times during my course, during the 20 to 30 hour long campaign of Prey, I actually completely switched up my gameplay style and went from maybe a strong first person shooter to more using the psi powers to more of a hybrid at the end. And it was pretty interesting as well as you upgrade the weapons and everything as they become more damaging. Maybe, oh, I used to use the handgun, but now the shotgun's going to be my go-to weapon. It's really kind of cool. Now, from the onset, Prey is a very open game. After you get through the initial hour or 2 of exploring the introductory area and you actually get into the main lobby of the Talos 1 space station, you have an enormous amount of choices, whether you want to check out the trauma center and med bay, maybe you want to go down to the shuttle area, check out the museum, maybe you want to go upstairs and check out some of the corporate offices. It's all at your disposal, and I ended up wandering around for several hours before I even did any progress in the plot, grabbing tons of upgrades, neuromods, crafting things at the fabrication benches, using all the looting items that I had found in the game, and basically making myself way more powerful, so when I finally took on the story, it wasn't super challenging. But you could also just choose to go along the main storyline and ignore all of that. Also along the way, there's tons of side content. You'll be running into people on the Talos 1 space station that need your help. Maybe they're stuck in an escape pod, or maybe there's someone who says they're one person, but later you find out they're not, and they're actually an escaped mental patient, and now you have to try to reel them in so that they don't hurt anyone else. There's lots of fun missions like this in the game, and of course, much like these open world exploration games of the past, you're going to be reading through computer terminals, you're going to be reading emails, you're going to be playing audio logs, and all those things are going to lead into more discovery and more mystery and more elaboration of the plot. Maybe you'll get a random combination in an email that'll allow you to go open a safe you've been trying to wonder, gee, how do I open that for the past 2 hours? And usually you'll get a really good item out of it. It's pretty damned cool. And so the open world exploration of Prey is one of its major positives. It makes the game really interesting. You can get completely lost in the world and find out, wow, well, you know what? I already cleared out this area. Now I'm coming back to it much later in the story in order to do the story-based missions that are there. That's a really cool feeling. And I ended up pretty much exploring almost all of Talos 1 that I could until finally, in like the final 6 hours of the game, I did all the plot. And it was a very fun experience being able to do that. And so, positives about Prey. Number 1, being able to openly explore most of this space station from the get-go, getting lost in the environments and being jump-scared and having this cool, suspenseful plot line that's guiding you around, and having a ton of side content that can actually lead this game to be up to 30 hours long, which is pretty much about how long my playthrough was, is pretty awesome and amazing. The game also has multiple endings, so dependent on different choices you make to save a certain person or do something a certain way during the course of your playthrough, you may actually get a variation on an ending at the end that changes a little bit, and that's also pretty cool to know that your choices actually matter. I also enjoyed the combat, although I'll be honest, the frame rate does dip a little bit during combat because this game only runs around 30 frames per second or slightly lower on consoles, and I didn't play it on PC to see if it would be any higher, but the combat is functional and fun and doesn't really have any negatives to it in my opinion. So, there's a lot of fun elements, the ability to be able to make yourself whatever you want. Do you want to be a psychic-based fighter, or maybe do you want to focus primarily on gunplay? Do you want to be a tank with lots of health, or do you want to be someone who can run fast or sneak? All of that is viable in the game and could lead to multiple playthroughs where you play through it doing it different ways. You can also decide, do you really care about looting every little thing and getting every password, or you just want to focus on the main story, which if you want to, you can beat the game within 8 to 10 hours and miss all of that side content, but that's perfectly fine as well. So that's what I really like about Prey. But there's also a few gripes that I have to call out. First off, I don't know what happened with the sound in Prey. Usually there's an audio designer / director of the game. I don't know if they were like high during the course of the development, because the audio is completely inconsistent over the course of Prey. First off, as you boot the game, the boot screen is incredibly screechingly loud and blows out your ears. Then once you actually boot the game and start playing it, the volume dips really low, but then when music starts playing, it gets really loud again. So then you tweak the volume levels to try to get it even, and even then, for whenever a cutscene plays in the game, it's about 10 decibels louder than anything else, and it blows out your eardrums. And in addition to that, it's hard to hear some of the voices when you're playing audio logs in the game. A lot of the times the voices and audio communications are really low, but then when someone's actually in front of you talking to you, they're really loud. It's just bizarre. I've never played a game in recent memory where the audio was this off, especially for a game that otherwise seems like a pretty well-designed game. I don't know what happened with the audio. It's just a startling gripe for me. Number 2, that glue gun that I mentioned and the platforming. It's kind of weird because it's so inconsistent. There are times when I wanted to climb a wall and I was able to do it on the first try. I just shoot some glue packets, jump and scale right above it, shoot another one, jump and scale right above it, and I could go all the way up a wall, no problem. Then there were other times when I would do exactly the same thing and I would constantly seem to clip off of the glue platform. I would fall off. There were some situations where I'd be jumping forward and somehow the physics would reverse and push me away from the wall. It just doesn't even make any logical sense in a lot of cases, the issues that I had with the physics in Prey. There's this one situation where it looks like there's an elevator shaft you can climb, but the game developers put some kind of fake invisible wall above your head so you can't even climb it, while in other parts of the game you've been able to do that. It's incredibly frustrating, it's inconsistent, and it makes it kind of almost like you don't want to use the glue gun to do platforming because you know you're going to probably end up getting frustrated. If you're ever going to try, I strongly recommend doing a quick save right before, so if you fall, that way you can just reload and not take some kind of a cheap health loss, because this mechanic, simply put, just doesn't work very well on console. Number 3, the hacking in the game is also kind of weird because there's 4 levels of hack, difficulty levels 1 through 4, and as you get more neuromods, you can put an upgrade into your body to make you be able to hack things easier. Well, as you progress through the difficulty levels of hacking, you would think that they would get harder. But actually, in reality, level 2 is the hardest level of hacking. Level 3 and 4 are incredibly easy because the game gives you way more time to do it. So it doesn't even seem consistent that the level 2 hacking, which is way more prominent than the supposedly harder level 3 and 4, is the hardest one in the game, and it actually makes it frustrating when you keep failing and taking a little bit of damage every time you fail a hack. You're like, man, it's only level 2. Why is it so difficult compared to the other ones that are actually much easier? And then, of course, one major gripe that really killed me throughout the entire course of this game, on console, the loading times are terrible. Now, the thing is, when you're first exploring the Talos 1 space station, it's not that big of a deal because the areas are actually quite large. So if you're in an area for the first time and you're exploring and you're fighting the enemies and you're looting everything and you're taking your time to explore, you're not going to have a lot of loading because you're not going from point A to point B. But in particular, near the end of the game, the last couple of hours of Prey require you to go between major different segments of the space station, which means every time you go between one, you have a loading screen. This loading screen takes about 2 whole minutes to load the next area, and for the entire last 2 hours of gameplay of Prey, not even kidding, I probably only played for about 45 minutes. I was sitting and staring at loading screens for about an hour and a half. That is completely unacceptable. This was something that was a major issue with games like Fallout New Vegas back in the day. In 2017, they should have perfected this to the point where you don't have to wait around and take up a hobby like whittling or something in order to kill time as you're going between areas. Again, it's not a major problem until the last third of the game when it requires you to go between the major areas very frequently, and you got loading screen after loading screen after loading screen. It makes you want to tear your goddamn hair out. But all that being said and all those negatives being called out, none of them really definitively held me back from having a good time playing Prey. I should also mention the game crashed once or twice during my playthrough. I've actually heard rumors of people out there having corrupted saves and hideous bugs in the game. I really didn't experience that at all, and the good thing about the game is that it allows you to save at any point. Therefore, if you run into a hideous game bug, hopefully you've made a save similar or close to where you are now, so that you can just reload and not have to replay too much and hopefully not experience that bug again. For me, I didn't have a super buggy experience. The game was pretty fun, it was streamlined, and outside of the few negatives that I've mentioned, it was an overall pretty interesting and fun experience. It has a definitive ending that was satisfying. I liked the fact that there were multiple endings and ways to beat the game. I actually found a secret way to end the game super duper early, which was actually quite fun. In fact, you end it so early, the game doesn't even roll credits and acts like you died instead, which is actually quite funny. So, I really enjoyed Prey. In fact, I'll even go as far to say I like Prey more than Dishonored 2 and also more than Deus Ex Mankind Divided last year. Both of those games were great, but I really didn't enjoy them nearly as much as Prey. Prey is just an original premise, a fun experience. It's a different kind of story. It has survival horror elements with sci-fi mixed in with that open upgrade tree and exploration and crafting system from other video games as of late, and I think that it does it in a really well-designed way. I very much enjoyed Prey, and I'm actually going to give it a 9 out of 10. That's right, pretty much way up there for me. One of my favorite games so far of 2017. If you haven't checked it out yet and you like this style of open world roaming game, but also being able to have the freedom to upgrade however you want, and you like a survival element, definitely check it out. You're going to enjoy it. Thanks for watching my review, everyone, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving this video a like right here on YouTube, and also subscribing to KO Gaming if you haven't already yet, so you can be in the know when all of my new reviews are released in 2017. Also, please check out the description of this video, in which you can find a link to my raw playthrough of Prey over on my DSP Gaming channel. Also, there's links there to my Teespring merch store and my Patreon, of which you can partake if you choose to. Thanks a lot for watching, and as usual, I will see you next time right here on KO Gaming. Peace out.